Welcome back everybody, and this video is going to focus on writing our details paragraphs. This will cover steps 4 and 5 of the writing process because we're actually going to write 2 details paragraph, and that will complete the structure of our task 1 answer. Let's take a look then at how to write your details paragraphs. So, firstly, you're going to use the key features that you have already selected and that you've already written your overview paragraph about. You're simply going to add accurate key details from the visual data given and use those numbers and figures to write a paragraph. You might include information such as starting points, important changes, similarities, differences, or even identical numbers. You're going to write 3 to 4 sentences only, and you're only going to write about the most important data which reflects the purpose of the information. So once again, it's important that the details that you use reflect why the data was created in the first place. So you're not simply selecting random details and writing a list of them. You're writing details that reflect why the data was created in the first place. So that is why you can use the same information that you have written about in the overview, but simply add accurate key details and describe the changes or differences within that information. Once again, we're going to be using this question to look at how to write our details paragraphs. So here's a quick reminder of what the graph looks like. And if you remember, this is what our bullet points looked like and the overview paragraph that we've already written. Now we can move on to the details paragraph. Now here is our first details paragraph. You are normally going to write 2 details paragraphs, and for this line graph there are just 2 pieces or 2 items that we need to describe: the television and the radio. So it therefore makes sense to write 1 paragraph about the radio and 1 paragraph about the television viewing figures. Now, if there were more, maybe let's say 3, 4, 6 or more different items of information that needed describing, what we would do is put them into groups, and we would then describe the trend for each of those groups. I'll be showing you examples of this in future videos, but for now you can see that here is our first details paragraph describing the radio trend, and it reads: from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. the number of people listening to the wireless rises dramatically from around 7% to approximately 27%. From this peak, the audience level gradually drops off throughout the day, hitting a low of about 2% at 2 p.m. It then remains at around this level until 6 p.m. Now, something to notice here is that we have written this in present simple because we are talking about facts and figures. If we could have written this in past simple. Both would have been okay on this occasion. Now, also notice that there are numerous numbers that have been inserted, which have been taken straight from the graph. And it's important to note that if I'm not 100% sure what the number is, I use words like around 7% or approximately 27%. Now, I have to do this because if I don't use those words and I say from 7% to 27% and I'm not actually sure if that's the exact number, then I'm not accurately describing the data. and I will therefore lose marks for task achievement. So I need to add in the words such as around or approximately in order to make my description accurate. You'll also notice there are a number of adverbs in here which show the examiner my range of vocabulary and also help to describe the data accurately. We'll be taking a look at those more closely in this second details paragraph, which will describe the television viewing trends. And this second details paragraph reads, in comparison, the number of television viewers rises to a minor peak of about 5% at 8 a.m. before gradually decreasing to around 2% at approximately 11 a.m. Following this, there is a further sharp increase to about 15% at around 1 p.m. before a slight drop-off, then a sharp increase to a high point of 45% at 8 p.m. After immediately dropping a couple of percent, this number remains steady for about an hour before dropping rapidly to about 3% before it finally rises ever so slightly between 4 and 6 a.m. Now, as you can see here, this is a very descriptive paragraph, and there are lots of adverbs that have been used to describe the nature of the changes. So you can see we've got adverbs like gradually, sharp, slight, immediately, rapidly, finally, slightly. These are all adverbs that are really descriptive and effective at describing the data. So you ought to be using a range of adverbs like this as well. Notice again that I've used words such as around, approximately, and about when I'm not sure what the exact number is. And remember, I need to do this to ensure my description is accurate. So that is essentially the two details paragraphs, and both of them are written based on the main purpose of the data, which is to compare the two, and the descriptions center around doing exactly that. So here's a quick recap on how to write details paragraphs. Firstly, you're going to use the key features that you've already selected. Secondly, you're going to add details using the numbers and data given. You're only going to write between 3 to 4 sentences. You're going to group your descriptions logically into two paragraphs. So the two paragraphs could consist of similar lines or patterns, similar themes, similar time periods, or before and after significant changes. And for maps and processes, that's maps and flowcharts, we'll do a separate video on how to do those. So don't worry about those for the moment. And you need to choose the method or the way to categorize the data that you feel will be easiest to maintain a high quality of writing and accuracy. So there are sometimes more than one way to group the data you're given, and you're going to choose the way you think will be easiest for you to write in a quality fashion and with accuracy. This example, the line graph, was quite a simple one to give you the idea of how to do it. Future examples will become increasingly more difficult.